What if you could make your English sound way more sophisticated and, more precise, like almost instantly? Well, that's the power of mastering conditional sentences. We're talking about all those if statements we use every single day. By the end of this quick explainer, you're going to have all the keys to unlock them. So let's just dive right in. No, really, think about it for a second. English has a ton of tricky parts, right? But I would argue that conditionals, they give you the most bang for your buck. Seriously. They're the key to expressing, well, everything, from straight-up scientific facts to your wildest dreams. And getting them right, it's a total game changer.
So, what are we even talking about here? Well, at their core, conditional sentences are actually pretty simple. It's all about cause and effect. Think of it like a domino effect. This can only happen if that happens first. It's this super basic idea of dependency that we honestly need to talk about all the time.
And the structure, it's pretty simple too. Every single conditional sentence is made up of two parts. We call them clauses. Let's just take a classic example. If I work hard, I will succeed. You can see there are two ideas kind of linked together, right? So let's break down what each part is actually doing.
All right, here we go. See that part that starts with if? If I work hard? That's what we call the if clause. And that's the condition. The other part, I will succeed, that's the main clause. That's the result. So the result completely depends on the condition happening first. You got to remember this structure because it is the key to, well, everything else we're about to talk about. Okay, so our foundation is set. Now it's time to build the house. In English, there are four main types of conditional sentences. And here's the secret. The only real difference between them is just the verb tenses they use. That's it. So let's walk through each one and you'll see exactly how they work.
First up, we've got the zero conditional. And honestly, it's the easiest one. We use this for things that are just always true. Scientific facts, habits, simple rules. The structure is super simple. Present simple tense in the if part and present simple tense in the result part. Like, if you heat water, it boils. That's a universal truth, right? Or something personal, like, if I drink coffee after 3 p.m., I don't sleep well. It's a fact for me, every time. All right, next step is the first conditional. Now, this is probably the one you use the most, day to day. It's all about real possibilities in the future, things that could totally happen. Now, pay attention to the change here. The if clause, it stays in the present simple. But the result clause, the main one, it jumps into the future with will. For example, if it rains tomorrow, I will take an umbrella. Super possible, super practical. Okay, now for the fun one, the second conditional. This is your daydreaming conditional. We use it to talk about hypothetical or, pretty unlikely situations. And here's the big shift. The if clause moves into the past simple, and the result uses would. This change in tense is how we signal to everyone that we're talking about something that's not real. It's our what-if mode. If I had $1 million, I would buy a yacht. I mean, I don't have it, but hey, a person can dream, right?
And last but not least, the third conditional. I like to call this one the time machine conditional. It's for looking back at the past and thinking about what could have been different. Usually with a little bit of regret. Now, the structure is definitely the most complex. You can see it uses the past perfect and would have. We use it for things that are totally impossible to change now. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. But the sad reality is, I didn't study, and so I didn't pass. No going back. Okay, so now you've got the four basic formulas down. But let's be real. Knowing the rules is one thing. Actually using them correctly is a whole other story. So now we get to what I think is the most important part of this whole thing, the common traps. These are the mistakes that even advanced learners make all the time. If you can dodge these, I promise your English is going to sound so much more natural. Let's start with the zero conditional. Remember, that's for general truths. A super common mistake here is to throw the word will into the result clause. But you can't do that because it's a general fact, something that's always true. We have to stick to the simple present. So you don't say they will get fat, you just say they get fat. It's like a rule of nature. It's always true. Okay, here's the big one. This is a massive, huge trap for English learners. When you're using the first conditional, the word will only belongs in the result clause. I'm going to say that again, only in the result. You absolutely positively cannot put will in the if clause. So remember, it's if you study, not if you will study. And guess what? The exact same logic applies to the second conditional, but this time with the word would. It's so tempting, I know, to put would in both parts of the sentence, but you can't. It only belongs in the result clause.
The if clause needs that simple past tense to signal that we're in hypothetical dreamland. So, if you studied, not if you would study. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Grammar expert Stuart Cook actually calls this specific error, putting would in the if clause, one of the absolute most common mistakes that non-native speakers make. So think about that. If you can fix this one little thing, you are already way ahead of the curve. You're going to sound fantastic. You can probably guess what's coming next. This pattern continues with our time machine conditional, the third conditional. That whole phrase, would have, belongs only in the result clause. The condition, the if part, has to use that past perfect structure. If you had studied. Getting this structure right is really the final key to unlocking how to talk about an imaginary past. All right, now for a little bonus tip to take you to the next level. While the word if is definitely the star of the show here, it's not the only word that can set up a condition. Let's look at a few cool alternatives that can make your English sound even more dynamic. So you can use words like unless, when, or provided to replace if, and they often add a little extra meaning. For example, saying you won't pass the test unless you study, well, that's just a stronger, more emphatic way of saying if you don't study. Or how about this one? Provided you have the money, you can buy the ticket. See how that just sounds a little more formal than using if? These are great little tools to have in your vocabulary toolbox. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? We've gone from the 4 basic types all the way to the common mistakes that trip people up. So let's just boil this all down to one single essential takeaway. If you remember just one thing from all of this, please make it this. It all comes down to the verb tenses. Seriously, each of the 4 types of conditionals is just a different recipe, a different combination of tenses for the if clause and the main clause. If you can match them correctly, you've mastered it. That's it. That's the entire secret right there. So I'm going to leave you with one final question. And of course, it's a first conditional. If you take what you've learned here and you actually practice it for just 1 week, how much do you think your English will improve? My bet is you'll be pretty surprised by the answer. Thanks for joining me.